The Great Escape was directed by Oliver Parker and it stars Michael Caine. And this is actually Michael Caine's last ever film. And it's probably the only reason why I've started recording a review of this film. I wasn't originally going to record it because, come on, like, Great Escape is not really the biggest film of the year, but as it turns out, it is his last film. So I thought, go on then. Let's review his last film, see how good it is. I'm happy to say that The Great Escaper is a pretty good film to end his career off on. Now, if you don't know what this movie is about, it is based on a true story that happened back in 2014, I think, around there. It's about this old World War II veteran who decides to go to France for the D-Day 70th anniversary celebrations. And he escapes his care home, leaves his wife for a bit, to go to France and honour the fallen soldiers. That's the entire plot of this movie. And the story is very simple in this film. It's nothing amazing or life-changing or everything. It deals with the same tropes of all these old-timey war veterans going through things like PTSD, which is a staple of these sorts of films sometimes. But it's good. It's an emotional ride. It has heart, has obvious passion behind the camera, and it just makes for a nice breezy 90 minutes movie. I was actually quite surprised to see that some parts of the story were purposely rushed, like the journey to France. That's probably on screen for about not even 5 minutes, I'd say. It's completely glossed over. He gets to France in about under 5 minutes. We introduce a couple more side characters. And this is where we get into my first big problem for this movie, is that the characters are pretty much all the same. Michael Caine's character, I think his name's Bernard, he deals with PTSD about the war. Again, a cliche of these old-timey war films, but it's something that can make you relate to the character, feel for him, if done right. And it does make you feel for him. You know, Bernard is a really likable guy, and so is his wife. And so are the other characters. And they deal with this PTSD in their own ways. Like, one person deals with it by drinking. And this new soldier who's just joined and he's been in a war or something, and he starts dealing with alcohol as well, and they all deal with it in certain ways, but Bernard doesn't. He just has to go through it. And I thought they were going to lead into an arc of him getting over his PTSD and learning to appreciate the time that he had with his wife. But they don't do that, and that's another thing about this story. It's got way too many ideas that it just doesn't know which one it wants to conclude on. It never develops its ideas fully by the end. In fact, one idea which features some of the worst scenes in the movie is where Michael Caine feels guilt because a former soldier that he knew, he kept saying he was going to be okay when he was about to go to war, and his tank got blown up and the guy died. And it leads to probably my favourite scene in the movie where he's at his grave and he's crying and everything, saying it was all a waste. It's a really great scene. Michael Caine really shows his acting chops there. But it also leads into these awful looking, cheap looking History Channel flashback scenes where we go back to the war and see these two characters as younger selves interacting. And they're not the best. The two actors aren't really doing the best job. It looks really cheap. The CGI around them doesn't look very good. It's obvious they're just on a set somewhere. So it looked like something straight off the History Channel or BBC One. It just did not look authentic at all. But the one part of this story that I think really gets the most screen time, and really where it starts to tug on your heartstrings, is when we focus on the relationship between Bernard and his wife. Because the relationship is cute, it's believable, the two actors have fantastic chemistry. The little flashbacks, the good side of the flashbacks, are probably the best parts about the film. They really developed the romance. You understand why these two people like each other. And as I said, it's just really likable and cute. And it just helps that Michael Caine and the late Glenda Jackson just absolutely kill it in these roles. They are absolutely amazing. Of course, Michael Caine is good. Like, when is he never good? And Glenda Jackson, unfortunately, she has passed away, I think earlier this year. Yeah, for her final performance, she did really well. She was brilliant in this. Brought a bit of comedic side to her emotional performance as well, which I think worked. I think her comedy side really worked well. And on a technical level, The Great Escaper is competent. I don't think the direction is anything special or anything. Everything's in focus, the camera moves, there's some nice shots at times. you know, Oliver Parker knows how to make boring locations like a care home look a bit more cinematic and worthy of seeing on the big screen. But one technical aspect this movie excels at for me was the sound mixing. I loved some of the sound mixing in some of the war scenes, those cheap looking war scenes. They were probably the best part about those moments. But things like the opening scene, which I really liked, where Bernard is looking out to sea and they use the sound of the seagulls squawking and the waves crashing to make it sound like bombs are falling. I don't know, I just really like that. I thought that was really cool. And there's certain parts like that throughout the film which I was really impressed with. So the sound mixing was really good in this. So visually and, you know, how it sounds, the movie is pretty good. And overall the movie is pretty good. It's nothing special. Some story aspects do not work. Some of the characters feel very samey. But the core relationship between Bernard and his wife is really where this movie starts to hit. Sound design, direction is all pretty good. The acting, Michael Caine delivers a brilliant performance for his last film. I had a good time with The Great Escaper. And I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Pretty good, it's a solid watch, only 90 minutes. If you want a nice breezy movie to get through, The Great Escaper is one I'd highly recommend. And yeah guys, that's it for the end of this review. I've reviewed Michael Caine's final movie. It's mad that he's retired now. He's a legend, he's a fantastic actor, I wish him the best retirement. But if you have seen The Great Escaper, please let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Next 2 videos, Killers of the Flower Moon review, and what I'm really excited for, Five Nights at Freddy's. Cannot wait for that. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Have a good day. And see you later.